Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be tackling a concept that's been kind of buzzing around the edges of science fiction and futurism for decades now.
Yeah.
Singularity.
Yeah.
But hold on, this isn't just some abstract sci-fi plot anymore. We're diving into the source material today to see why some very serious thinkers believe this once hypothetical moment of technological takeoff might be a lot closer than we realize.
Right.
So I've got a fascinating stack of sources for you today. Excerpts from John von Neumann, I.J. Good, Ray Kurzweil, Werner Vinge, Yuval Noah Harari, and even a unique take from the astrologers over at Ecoscopia. So we'll see how these perspectives align or sometimes clash to give you a clearer picture of what the singularity really means and, more importantly, why it matters to you right now.
Absolutely.
So you're ready to have your mind bent a little?
Let's do it.
Let's get started.
What's interesting is that the seeds of this idea were planted way back in the mid-20th century. John von Neumann, a brilliant mathematician and physicist, observed that technological progress wasn't just linear, it was accelerating. He even used the term singularity, borrowing it from physics, to describe this point where the usual rules kind of break down.
He was talking about the sheer speed of advancement, right? Like how each new breakthrough builds upon the last, creating a sort of snowball effect.
Exactly. And for von Neumann, this wasn't just some abstract concept. He was deeply involved in the early days of computing and saw firsthand the potential for technology to radically reshape the world.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if he could have even imagined the world we live in today with smartphones and the internet and AI that can write poetry.
It's mind-boggling to think about, but the idea of an intelligence explosion as it came to be known really took shape with I.J. Good, a British mathematician who worked alongside Alan Turing, the father of modern computing.
Wait, wasn't Alan Turing the guy who cracked the Enigma code during World War II? The guy who basically invented the computer?
That's the one. And in 1965, Good coined this phrase intelligence explosion to describe a scenario where a machine becomes so intelligent that it can design even more intelligent machines. And those machines would in turn create even smarter ones, leading to a runaway effect.
So like a chain reaction of superintelligence, each generation smarter than the last. But wouldn't there be a limit to how intelligent a machine could get?
That's the million-dollar question, or maybe the trillion-dollar question, considering the potential implications. Good believed that this self-improving AI would eventually surpass human intelligence, leading to what he called humanity's last invention.
Whoa, humanity's last invention.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold statement. Makes you wonder if we should be working on that invention right now, doesn't it?
Right, and this idea that we're on the cusp of creating something that could fundamentally alter the course of human history is at the heart of what the singularity is all about.
Okay, so we've got these early thinkers laying the groundwork for this idea of a technological explosion. But where does this actually take us? I mean, we haven't seen any super intelligent robots walking around yet, have we?
Not quite. But that's where Werner Vinge comes in. He's a science fiction author, and in 1993, he wrote an essay that really popularized the term singularity and brought it into the mainstream conversation.
Ah, so he gave this whole concept a name and a story that people could latch onto.
Exactly. And Vinge didn't just talk about AI. He envisioned several pathways to superhuman intelligence. Artificial intelligence, of course, but also things like intelligence amplification, where humans enhance their cognitive abilities through technology, or even the emergence of super-intelligent biological beings.
Okay, starting to get a little sci-fi here, but I'm following. So what did Vinge think would happen after this singularity? Did he have a timeline in mind?
He actually predicted that the singularity would occur within 30 years of his writing, which would have been 2023.
Wait, so we're already overdue for the robot takeover. I haven't even updated my phone's operating system.
Yeah. Well, while his exact time frame might be debatable, his central idea that we're on a trajectory towards some form of superhuman intelligence has only become more relevant with advancements in fields like AI, biotech, and nanotechnology.
Okay, so even if we're not quite at the point of having super intelligent robots serving us coffee, the underlying trends suggest that we're moving in that direction. But didn't Vinge also talk about some potential downsides to all of this?
He absolutely did. Vinge recognized the incredible potential of the singularity, but he also saw it as a double-edged sword. He was acutely aware of the potential risks, particularly the possibility that this superhuman intelligence might not be aligned with human values and goals.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but about how we use it and what kind of future we're creating with it.
Exactly. Vinge's point was that we can't just be swept away by the wow factor of the singularity. We need to think critically about the ethical implications, the potential consequences, and what kind of world we want to build with these powerful technologies. It's easy to get swept up in these grand ideas about the singularity, but what we really need to do now is bring it back down to earth. How do these concepts, these potential futures, actually impact you, the listener? That's what we'll unpack in this part of our deep dive.
Yes, please. Because honestly, it can feel a bit overwhelming. All this talk about accelerating technology, artificial intelligence, the potential for both utopia and dystopia. It's fascinating, but also a bit daunting. What are the practical implications for our everyday lives right now?
That's the key point. The singularity, even if it's decades away, isn't some isolated event. It's the culmination of trends that are already in motion, shaping our world today. The choices we make now, individually and collectively, will determine what kind of future we actually end up with.
So it's like we're in the early chapters of a choose-your-own-adventure novel.
Yeah.
And the decisions we make now will determine which ending we get.
I love that analogy. We're not just passive readers. We're active participants in writing this story. Think about the themes we've already touched on. AI's rapid development, the power of data, the uncertainty around the future of work. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're forces that are already impacting our lives.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's less about predicting the exact date of the singularity and more about understanding how these trends are playing out in real time and what we can do to navigate them.
Exactly. And that's where Yuval Noah Harari's warnings become especially relevant. He's been very vocal about the potential for widespread job displacement as AI and automation take over tasks that were previously done by humans.
It's funny, when you hear automation, most people think of factory robots, right?
Sure.
But now we're seeing AI writing code, creating marketing content, even doing legal research. It's like no job is truly safe.
It's a wake-up call for sure. But Harari's point isn't to instill fear. It's to encourage proactive adaptation. He emphasizes the importance of lifelong learning and developing skills that are uniquely human, the kind that are difficult for machines to replicate.
So we're talking about creativity, critical thinking, complex problem-solving, emotional intelligence, the skills that require that human spark that AI hasn't quite mastered yet.
Precisely. And those are the skills that will become even more valuable in a job market that's increasingly shaped by automation. It's not just about learning a specific trade. It's about developing a mindset of adaptability and continuous learning.
It's almost like we need to upgrade our mental operating systems to keep pace with the rate of technological change. But what about those who are already feeling left behind? Harari talks about this potential useless class. What can be done to help people adapt to these rapid shifts?
That's where the conversation needs to shift from individual responsibility to broader societal solutions. We need to rethink our education systems, provide opportunities for reskilling and upskilling, and create safety nets for those who are displaced by technological advancements.
Sound like a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
But ignoring the problem isn't going to make it go away.
Exactly. And it's not just about job security. It's about human dignity and purpose. Harari argues that in a world where work is increasingly automated, we need to find new ways to define meaning and value in our lives.
That's a deep thought. It makes you wonder what a world without traditional work would even look like. Would it be a utopia of leisure and creativity, or would people feel lost and purposeless without the structure of a job?
That's a question we need to explore as a society. And it ties into another one of Harari's warnings: the potential for data to become the ultimate source of power, leading to a world where those who control the algorithms control everything.
We already see glimpses of this today, right? With how social media algorithms shape our perceptions, how personalized ads target us, how our online activity is tracked and analyzed.
Exactly. And Harari is concerned that this trend could lead to a new form of tyranny, where individuals and even entire societies are manipulated and controlled by those who hold the reins of data.
So it's not just about AI becoming super intelligent. It's about how that intelligence is used and who controls it. It's a question of power ethics and the very nature of freedom in a digital age.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation that needs to happen now, not after the singularity has supposedly arrived. We need to be proactive in shaping these technologies and ensuring that they're used for the benefit of humanity, not for the enrichment of a select few or the consolidation of power.
Okay, so we've got these big picture concerns about the future of work, the potential for data-driven tyranny. It's heavy stuff. But what can we as individuals actually do about it? It can feel like we're just tiny cogs in a giant machine.
That's where the importance of awareness comes in. The first step is to educate yourself about these issues, to understand how technology is already shaping your life, and to be critical of the information you consume.
So it's about being a savvy consumer of information, questioning the algorithms that are feeding us our news and our entertainment.
Exactly. And it's about being mindful of the data you're sharing, understanding the terms of service you're agreeing to. and supporting companies and organizations that prioritize data privacy and ethical AI development.
It's almost like we need to become digital activists, demanding transparency and accountability from the tech giants who hold so much power over our lives.
There's definitely a need for that kind of activism. But it's also about making informed choices in our own lives. What platforms do we use? What products do we buy? How do we engage with technology in a way that aligns with our values?
So it's about taking responsibility for our own digital footprint, not just passively accepting whatever the tech companies throw at us.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that our individual choices, when multiplied by millions or billions of people, can have a real impact on the direction of technological development.
That's actually quite empowering, isn't it? It's not just about being swept along by the tide. It's about actively shaping the current.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the idea of a future-oriented mindset. It's about actively thinking about the kind of world we want to create, not just for ourselves, but for future generations, and taking steps to make that vision a reality.
So how do we cultivate that future-oriented mindset? What are some practical things we can do to shift from a sense of fear and overwhelm to a sense of agency and possibility?
One thing you can do is to engage in future casting, actively imagining different scenarios for the future, both positive and negative. This can help you identify potential challenges and opportunities and start thinking about how you might respond to them.
So it's like a mental exercise playing out different what-if scenarios in your head.
Exactly. And it can be a fun and creative process. It's not about predicting the future with certainty. It's about expanding your thinking and challenging your assumptions about what's possible.
Sounds like a good way to break out of the business as usual mindset and start thinking more creatively about the future. Are there any other practical tips for developing this future-oriented mindset?
Another important step is to connect with others who are also thinking about the future. Join online forums, attend conferences, read books and articles by futurists and thought leaders. The more you immerse yourself in these conversations, the more you'll start to see the world through a different lens.
It's about finding your tribe, your community of people who are also grappling with these big questions and who are actively working to create a better future.
Exactly. And it's about being open to new ideas and perspectives. The future is not going to be created by any one person or group. It's going to be a collective effort, a tapestry woven from the threads of countless individual dreams and actions.
I love that imagery. And it highlights that we're not just passive observers of the future, we're active creators. We have the power to shape the world we want to live in, and that power starts with our thoughts, our choices, and our actions.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the core message that Yuval Noah Harari has been emphasizing, the need to prepare for the singularity, not just technologically, but also ethically, socially, and even spiritually.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of big ideas in this part of our deep dive, from the future of work, to the potential for data-driven tyranny, to the importance of developing a future-oriented mindset. But I'm sensing that there's still more to unpack, especially when it comes to practical strategies for navigating this rapidly changing landscape.
You're right. We've laid the groundwork, but there's still much more to explore. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll delve into specific actions you can take today to prepare for the future, from cultivating essential skills to staying informed about emerging technologies, to making conscious choices that align with your values.
So stay tuned for part 3, where we'll move from big ideas to concrete actions, equipping you with the tools and resources you need to thrive in a world on the cusp of profound transformation.
You're listening to Echoes of Insight, where we dive deep into the topics shaping our world, from the planet and politics to health, consciousness, economy, and alternative lifestyles. If you're enjoying the journey, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast with others who love exploring new perspectives.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last 2 parts exploring this mind-bending concept of the singularity, from its historical roots to the potential impacts on society, work, and even our own sense of self. Now in this final part, we're shifting gears from big ideas to concrete actions. We've talked about the need to prepare, to adapt, to embrace a future-oriented mindset. But what does that actually look like in your daily life? That's what we're digging into now.
You know, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this talk of accelerating technology and potential disruptions. But the good news is there are tangible steps you can take right now to navigate this changing landscape and even thrive in the years to come.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's start with the skills we've been mentioning. You've talked about the importance of creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving. But how do we actually develop those skills? It's not like they come pre-installed on our brains.
You're right, they don't. It takes conscious effort and practice. But think about it like training a muscle. The more you engage those mental muscles, the stronger they become.
So what are some workouts for our brains? Give us the mental fitness routine.
One of the best ways to boost your creative thinking is to expose yourself to new ideas and experiences. Read books outside your usual genres. Take a class in something you've always been curious about. Travel to a new place. The more diverse your inputs, the more creative your outputs will be.
It's like cross-training for your brain. And you've also talked about critical thinking. How do we sharpen that skill?
Critical thinking is all about questioning assumptions, evaluating evidence, and forming your own conclusions. A great way to practice this is to engage in thoughtful discussions, read articles from different perspectives, and even try debating a topic you feel strongly about from the other side.
That's a great point. It's so easy to get stuck in our own echo chambers, surrounded by people who agree with us. But to really think critically, we need to be challenged to see things from different angles.
Absolutely. And when it comes to problem solving, one of the most valuable things you can do is to learn how to break down complex problems into smaller, more manageable pieces. This is a skill that's used in everything from computer programming to writing a novel to starting a business.
So it's about taking that big, overwhelming challenge and turning it into a series of steps you can actually tackle.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment and try different approaches. Sometimes the most creative solutions come from thinking outside the box and challenging conventional wisdom.
Okay, so we've got our mental fitness routine down, but let's be realistic. A lot of people are worried about AI taking their jobs. What advice do you have for those who are feeling anxious about the future of work?
First, it's important to remember that the future is not predetermined. Yes, AI and automation are going to disrupt certain industries, but they're also going to create new opportunities that we can't even imagine yet.
So it's not about resisting change, but about being open to new possibilities.
Exactly. Instead of focusing on the jobs that might be lost, focus on the skills that will be in demand in the future. We've already talked about some of them. Creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving. But there are others like emotional intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to work effectively in teams.
It's almost like we need to become future-proof by developing a skill set that's adaptable to whatever challenges or opportunities come our way.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, learning is a lifelong journey. The more you invest in your own development, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the twists and turns of the future job market.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a bit more optimistic here. But there's another concern that keeps coming up. Data privacy. We've talked about the potential for data to be used in harmful ways, even leading to what Harari calls digital dictatorships. What can we do to protect ourselves in a world where data is becoming increasingly valuable and vulnerable?
You're right. Data privacy is a huge issue, and it's only going to become more important as we move towards a more data-driven world. The good news is there are steps you can take to protect yourself.
Okay, give us the rundown. How do we become more data-savvy citizens?
First, be mindful of what information you're sharing online. Read privacy policies carefully. Adjust your settings on social media, and think twice before handing over your personal data to any company or organization.
It's like being a savvy consumer in the digital age. We need to read the fine print before we click agree.
Exactly. And consider using privacy-focused tools like VPNs, encrypted messaging apps, and privacy-oriented browsers.
So we're talking about taking proactive steps to control our own digital footprint, not just blindly trusting that companies will handle our data responsibly.
Exactly. And remember, you have a right to know what data companies are collecting on you and how they're using it. Don't be afraid to ask questions and demand transparency.
It's about reclaiming some of that power, pushing back against the idea that our data is just another commodity to be bought and sold.
Absolutely. And it's about supporting organizations that are fighting for data privacy and ethical AI development. There are a lot of great groups out there doing important work in this area.
So we can vote with our wallets and our voices, supporting companies and organizations that align with our values.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about shaping the kind of digital world we want to live in. A world where privacy is respected, where data is used responsibly, and where technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. We've got our mental fitness routine. We're being more mindful of our data. We're supporting organizations that align with our values. It feels like we're building a toolkit for navigating this future, rather than just being swept along by it.
That's exactly the mindset we want to encourage. The future is not something that just happens to us. It's something we actively create through our choices and actions.
So even in the face of these massive technological shifts, we still have agency.
Absolutely. More than ever, actually. The technologies that are driving the singularity, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and nanotechnology have the potential to solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, from climate change to disease to poverty.
But those same technologies could also be used in harmful ways.
Right.
It's all about how we choose to wield them.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be engaged in these conversations, to be informed about the potential risks and benefits, and to actively participate in shaping the future we want to see.
So it's not just about surviving the singularity, but about thriving in it.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the core themes we've been exploring throughout this deep dive: the importance of adaptability, the power of a future-oriented mindset, and the need to embrace change as an opportunity for growth and transformation.
And remember that even seemingly small actions multiplied by millions of people can create a ripple effect that shapes the course of history. It's like that butterfly effect. A small change in one place can have a huge impact somewhere else.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating the future, no matter how small our contributions may seem.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the singularity, I want to leave our listeners with a sense of empowerment, not fear. The future is not something to be dreaded. It's something to be embraced with curiosity, courage, and a commitment to creating a world that is both technologically advanced and ethically responsible.
Beautifully said. And remember, we're all in this together. The singularity, if it arrives, will impact all of humanity. So let's approach it with a spirit of collaboration, a willingness to learn from each other, and a shared commitment to creating a future that we can all be proud of.
I could agree more. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of the singularity. And remember, the future is not predetermined. It's something we create together.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Echoes of Insight. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share it with someone who loves exploring big ideas. Together, let's keep the conversation going. See you next time.